talk show on lending a warm hand, civil servants and COVID-19, in collaboration with the Honor of Women and the Policy Center and Gender Lab of Miranda House. Today we have with us four very experienced and well-known voices to share their journeys and stories with us. I take this opportunity to introduce our first speaker, Ms. Rakhi Gupta Bhandari, an Indian Administrative Service Officer of great repute. She is currently the Resident Commissioner, Punjab, with an illustrious career in service, an alumna of Delhi School of Economics, and a woman of great might and dedication. We welcome you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Ms. Amanpreet Kaur, an Indian Revenue Service Officer from Ludhiana, currently posted in New Delhi as Joint Commissioner Income Tax. She launched an initiative recently to ensure menstrual health and supervised the distribution of sanitary napkins in all prisons of Punjab, where women inmates are lodged. She has helped close to 10 lakh women across 17 states who had no access to sanitary pads during the lockdown. Known as Pad Woman, we look forward to hearing from her. We welcome you, ma'am. Our third speaker is Mr. Ayush Prasad, an Indian Administrative Service Officer and Chief Executive Officer of Zilla Parishad in Pune. With a degree in engineering, a brief stint in the State Bank of India and Tata Consultancy Services, and thereafter as a fellow in the prestigious Young India Fellowship of Ashoka University, he then went on to clear his exams with an All India rank 24 in 2014. His experience and skills are inspiring, and we look forward to hearing from him. We welcome you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Danish Rana, an Indian Police Service Officer and Inspector General of Armed Police, Jammu Zone. He is also the author of an important work on resilience, valor, and sacrifice. The book Red Mail was published in 2000 by HarperCollins India and was Tata Literature Live First Book Award in fiction at a ceremony held in Mumbai. We welcome you, sir. Our moderator for the day is Ms. Rakhi Bakshi. She is the founding editor, managing editor, and director of Her World India, a leading web portal spearheading the cause of gender equality and diversity among various social issues. She's a veteran media professional who served as media advisor to Lok Sabha Speaker and also championed the cause of gender rights as director, Women's Feature Service, and show host on Rajya Sabha TV. She is a role model for girls all over the world. I also take this opportunity to briefly introduce our portal, Her World. We are a web portal covering issues and themes across the vista, from gender equality, ecological issues, poverty, stories of hope and courage. We strive to create an ecosystem of allies driven to empower people with information. Our partners in this process are Honor of Women, an organization that strives to create legal awareness through workshops, webinars, and more. The Policy Center and Gender Lab of Miranda House, SB Chopal, an initiative of Nagrik Foundation, and Kacheri India. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and our social media handles are present on the screen for you. I hope all of you have a very insightful session, and I invite Rakhi ma'am to kindly take over. Meanwhile, could the rest of the participants please put themselves on mute so that we don't have any voice disturbances in between? The rest of the viewers and participants, please.
I see. Okay. While everyone is busy muting and some of them who have to speak unmuting, I welcome you all on behalf of Her World and Rakhi Bakshi here. It's a pure delight and matter of privilege for me to have a very esteemed panel with us. People who are really doing good work, and they happen to be civil servants, but I think it's the DNA in them that really also motivates them to do work for the society and the overall holistic approach they have for development of the nation. So we welcome you, all of you. And since Rakhi ma'am will be joining us in a while, allow me to start with the that Amanpreet Kaur. And Amanpreet, I would really like to say that it's been so inspiring just to know about your work. Lots and lots of women who are just reading, who are who don't have this opportunity to even use sanitary pads, and they really need it in those days. to provide them that kind of dignity through these pads. I think the kind of revolution you've been making, apart from the regular work that you do along Priya, I think is commendable. And the fact that I got so moved by you is the fact that I really wanted to have you on my show. Welcome with from on behalf of all my teammates here, Amanpreet. Let's hear from you the journey
Thank
that it started. Tell us,
thank you so much.
you are as to how has it been. I mean, how did this whole idea come in, and what is the experience of helping so many women out there? I mean, something that women now have started speaking about. It's about menstrual hygiene. Women are opening up. In fact, men are opening up. We have other male colleagues here who will be talking about it. But tell us, Amanpreet, as to how has it been for you?
Yeah, hello Rakhi ma'am, and my sincere thanks to Her World for giving me an opportunity to talk about this not so talked about topic. It has been a beautiful journey and support of all people. That it all started when the lockdown was. Hello, am I audible?
You can go on. I think we have requested people to unmute. You can go on, Amanpreet. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, ma'am, when this lockdown started, before the lockdown started, in fact, on February 2020, there was this news item somewhere that in the Bhuj area of Gujarat, some of the girls of a particular hostel were asked to show their underwears to the warden to show this whether they are menstruating or not. And this was done because, according to the warden, they have not followed the menstrual rules which they were supposed to follow during their periods. And this article, these girls, they have went to the kitchen of their hostel, and this was the punishment given by the warden to them. This is one news article which I think it was going to stay as a stigma whole throughout my life in my memory. And then when the lockdown started, there were news articles that some of the girls who didn't have the access to the sanitary pads due to the closure of their schools and colleges, where they were given the free supply of sanitary napkins or subsidized supply of sanitary napkins. These girls have written to the administration that please kindly help us, because even their parents or they are now jobless and they don't want to overburden them with their this demand. And many of the girls said that जो उनके घर की बच्चियां थी, the other girls who were not that much privileged to go to the schools, और उनकी supplies भी ये लेके जाती थी, they said कि मैम अब हम जैसे कि वो जा नहीं पा रहे हैं तो their supplies have also been cut off. So these things really moved me a lot. And I heard that my friend Priyal Bhardwaj, she is a fashion designer by profession. She started this trust called Sangni Saheli, and in one of the distributions she said, will you accompany me? And it was her third or fourth distribution, and it was happening in Noida. It was organized by the Commissioner of Police there, Alok Singh sir ki jo wife hai Akasha Singh ma'am, unhone. And Rakesh, you will be surprised to know कि वहाँ पे जो 250 to 350 women who came, they were the brick kiln workers. They were the breadwinners of their family. And 70% of the women said that they will be going to use the sanitary pads for the first time. And these things, this Gujarat Bhuj news information, and then the girls telling that the supplies are not reaching them due to closure of schools. My own maid once said कि मैं दीदी the जो हमारे घर के सामने जो शॉप थी जो परचून वाला था, उसके पास एक भी पैकेट सैनिटरी पैड का आज की डेट में नहीं है. So during it was her containment zone area. So with the help of my friend, I was able to send them the supply of sanitary pads. And जब ये नोएडा का distribution हुआ, I thought that why should not I ask my fellow civil servants, my batchmates, that at least जो वो इतने whole of the India में they are scattered, they are posted, नहीं तो अपने place of birth या place of posting वो वहाँ पे एक initiative शुरू करें. So the drive which started from Noida, from my own batchmates, we, with the help of various civil organizations, NGOs, police administrations who were already working in the containment zones, with the help of various DCs of the area, जो आंगनवाड़ी workers थे, जो छोटे छोटे you can say ऑलरेडी जो स्कूल टीचर्स थे जिनकी ड्यूटीज लग गई थी ड्यूरिंग कोविड, दे हमने इनकी हेल्प ली because they were already the frontline warriors, the frontline workers who were working in the containment zones. तो इनके थ्रू पहले हमने भेजना शुरू किया. Then as I am from Punjab, तो my mother late श्रीमती परमजीत कौर, she was superintendent women jail. तो वो जेल से थोड़ा सा कनेक्शन था and I knew that maybe there might be some difficulty in the accessibility of sanitary pads. क्योंकि जब लॉकडाउन हुआ तो जब वो प्रिजनर्स को मिलने का, वो मुलाकात कहते हैं हम उसको, जो उनको प्रिजनर्स को अपने रिलेटिव से मिलना होता है, तो वो ऑब्वियसली इट वाज कर्टेल्ड. तो उनकी दे आर लार्जली डिपेंडेंट ऑन ईदर द जेल कंटीन्स और देयर रिलेटिव्स. तो हुआ यूं दैट आई कॉल्ड अप माय पेरेंट्स इन पंजाब, और मैंने जब उनको बताया कि हम ऐसे सैनिटरी पैड्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं, तो दे सेड कि इट इज पंजाब में भी इसकी बहुत जरूरत है. तो they started the initiative and it was started from Ludhiana women jail only. And when my parents went there to distribute, the women said yes, the supplies have not reached them. और जब उनको हमने प्रोवाइड की, then this idea came. तो वहाँ के पंजाब के ADGP जो सर हैं जिनके अंडर सारी जेल्स आती हैं, प्रिजन्स आती हैं, he is ADGP prisons, PK सिन्हा सर, तो उनको कॉल लगाई and I said कि sir, I am doing this, I am distributing sanitary pads और छोटा सा मुहिम है.
This, I think, Amanpreet, allow me to come here, is that this is the chain of humanity that you started. Like when you're narrating this story, there are so many things we're learning. One that, I mean, you went to those areas, prison, that nobody generally usually looks at, and आप वहाँ पे गई और वहाँ पे आपने intervene किया है. Another thing that I'm learning from you, we all are learning from you, is that how you created that chain within your batchmates and police. You reached out and you say, okay, let's do something. So for example, what happens, there are policies and schemes, and the government servants are, they follow them and they work on those schemes. But you're going beyond those lines of duty, and you're saying, okay, this is where I will also, serve the society, help out, lead us, and work on those areas. So that really leads me to now Ayush Prasad from Pune, who's joining us, and who's somebody also who's not only an IS officer, but somebody who's very socially aware and does whole lot of things in all his postings that are known also. Right from working in rural areas for people who really need it at the very bottom of our strata of society, to women. I mean, I'm told that even for women, he has done a lot of work. In fact, menstrual hygiene is something when I was talking to him, we shared that. Ayush, please come in and tell us as to how has it been. Of course, the experience pre-COVID has been, and as I've known about you, that you have been doing a whole lot of work, and which we get to know also through even newspaper readings. But right now in COVID-19, when people are very hard pressed, there is this amount of stress which seems to be increasing. There's a sense of panic. How are you really reaching out? As we say, lending a warm hand. How exactly, literally, are you doing that, Ayush?
With regard to COVID-19, yes, there was a problem that came along with COVID-19, which nobody anticipated. That is something that we know today as shadow pandemic. That there was a rise in domestic violence cases across the country and the world. And this was realized quite late in the day when we started. Initially, at least in Pune, we had absolutely no reports. But in one of the days, there was a report from France that they had, in fact, opened up hotels to victims of domestic violence. And our Home Minister, in fact, requested all the officers in the field to basically watch out for any cases of domestic violence and to take preventive and curative measures to prevent domestic violence. So we came up with this scheme that since we implement Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao program in the district of Pune, so we came up with this idea that anybody who's indulging in domestic violence, the violator would be shifted out and be put into a quarantine facility. And this, as you know, probably got a lot of headlines. And in fact, I had a group of people calling me from Delhi and saying that that we are the other side that is troubled by domestic violence, and there's a group of 700 people, men, who are in fact fighting a case against the Domestic Violence Act. So this had a lot of media grabbing attention, and for a day and a half, this story had a lot of it caught a lot of eyeballs and put focus on domestic violence. But to make it into a systematic program, we basically enrolled women from the Panchayat Raj institutions, the Women and Child Department, the Anganwadi Sevikas, as well as the women who are active in the self-help group movement in Pune district of Maharashtra. And we could get about 21,000 women who volunteered to proactively survey out each house and identify cases of domestic violence. The first thing that we found was when we started working on this issue was many people assumed that this is something new that we are doing. But honestly speaking, we were just implementing the provisions of the Domestic Violence Act, which was enacted about 15 years ago and which has been in place for the last 15 years. Second one was that when we started going home to home and asking women about domestic violence, they thought domestic violence is like an expected out of a marriage. This was very surprising for me, and especially a district like Pune, which has a high HDI of, you would not expect women to actually think that domestic violence is a part of the marriage, something that marriage entails. And we had to work very systematically on breaking this idea, the notion. We enrolled counselors, and then we started challenging this idea on variety of levels. One very visible impact was we got a lot of cases that were otherwise would have gone unregistered. Currently, we are helping 4 women get divorced from their husbands. We are in fact protecting a large number of women, and in fact a couple of, and this has also seen a large number of people who are doing PhD in this space, both internationally and in universities across India, show interest in trying to research our work here. And they've also found that, in fact, one of the researchers told me very recently that that this initiative has given them an Aadhaar for women, and it has enhanced the self of safety, because there is somebody in the Gram Panchayat or the municipal ward who is there to be reached out to, a socially active person to basically work on domestic violence. And finally, I'd also like to say that even when the Domestic Violence Act was enacted, there was not many political leaders who came into the space and started speaking about the issue of domestic violence. For the first time, we saw, at least in this part of Maharashtra, that a large number of senior political, male as well as female leaders took to various important platforms to speak about domestic violence, to challenge the notion of domestic violence. And something that was earlier in the civil society space has come into the mainstream policy space. And this is something that we've achieved, and we are continuously growing this movement. Now the number of cases has stabilized. People have identified which are the houses, where do we need to work on. We have implemented the Domestic Violence Act as well as the UN Ring a Bell mission. And this has actually provided a sense of safety. And I think women are safer off, and the police has also registered fewer cases of violence against women. The more cases of assault that get registered. So those cases have also seen a reduction through this preventive measure. And I think this has shown some results in this pandemic.
Ma'am, I think you'll have to unmute yourself.
I don't think I can hear.
Ma'am, you need to unmute yourself. You're on mute.
Am I on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ayush has really say that, at Her World, we actually did an article on the same subject, Women in a Web World and Lockdown. That's what the title said. And how aptly that you're talking about this work, which is very pertinent when we're talking about, the lockdown. Something that really, really needs to. I mean, there are a lot of women, I can tell you personally, who come out and talk to me and saying that they have a huge problem. The fact that a civil servant like you takes this matter so sensitively and talks about it, I think is something that was really needed. And you really, talked about it in detail as to how you have not only taken from the act of domestic violence, but also reached out in a way where women are feeling safer finally. And that's how I think governance should work. And I'm glad that you're doing that. Let me really come to another very senior police officer who's joining us from Jammu, Mr. Danish Rana. Somebody, when we were talking, we have known each other for 15 years. Sounds really that such an old time. But thank you so much for joining us, sir. And what a privilege it's been. Mr. Rana is also one intellectual IPS officer, has written books, who talks about literature. And it's really like those with the soft soul kind of thing. So welcome once again, Mr. Rana, and tell us as to what is happening in Jammu. I mean, right now, we keep reading that it's getting a little alarmed when you say talking about cases. But how in this crisis, in this pandemic, are you dealing with situations? For example, as Ayush and Amanpreet would say, there are safety issues also. As to how women within the home or when they go out, it's not only about health, but it's all related. So how are you really tackling it? Rana, can you hear me?
So you are not audible.
Let's wait a little bit.
So we can't hear you. You are not audible.
Okay, should we use the time by the time to go on to something else? Can you hear us? His voice, I mean, I can't hear it. Just unmute him or something, I think.
Hello. Yes, we are hearing.
Yeah.
Audible.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Hello. I just heard you. He can't hear. He has a problem. Maybe just try. Okay, anyways, let's go to Amanpreet and Ayush by the time, and Madam Rakhi Gupta will be joining. Amanpreet, how are you now taking it ahead? I mean, how is your routine like? For example, I mean, in the week you have to work. Your daily work also is something very unique. You're in the tax system as something that is financially helping people or sorting it out. But how do you really take up time to really work out your schedule and then reach out to these women?
Ma'am, you'll have to unmute yourself. Amanpreet ma'am.
Yeah. Hi, Rakhi ma'am. Again, I was actually looking forward to hear Danish Rana sir, because the mission which I started, it has reached to the Doda district of Jammu also. And I was reading yesterday about Rana sir, and जो Doda district है, sir will really appreciate कि वहाँ की जो जब हम women तक पहुँचे, these were the women who actually we came to know that they will be using the sanitary pads for the first time. Or getting down to my daily routine, yes, the initial 15 days of the lockdown in March, the income tax offices were closed. It was totally a new thing for us. And then this thing came, there were the containment zones. When Priyal told me, it was after the 15 days of the lockdown. So with the help of various people, during this lockdown itself, the passes were arranged. I was talking to my batchmates also, or starting with the greatest problem which we encountered was the availability of the sanitary pads itself. The factories were closed. There were, you will be surprised to know, some chemist shops of our country that not even a single packet of sanitary pad was available. तो वहां पे we took the help of various NGOs, various district administrations also. तो वहां तक हमने कहा जो NGOs राशन प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं, इन्हीं को बोला जाए कि ये उसमें एक sanitary pad भी ऐड कर दें. Then when our offices started, so Monday to Friday it was my job, and after the office hours I used to coordinate with my other batchmates, with other district administrations, with other NGOs, with various foundations. तो स्टार्टिंग में इट ऑल स्टार्टेड विद द जो नारी गृह हो गए, जो अनाथ आश्रम हो गए, कुष्ठ आश्रम हो गए, ऐसी प्लेसेस पे हमने जब ये पहुंचाया, इट वाज फ्रॉम थ्रू माय फोन ओनली. एंड देन सैटरडे एंड संडेज आई केप्ट कि जहां द एरियाज वर आइडेंटिफाइड कि जहां पे लेडीज ने, हमने जब पैड्स पहुंचाए तो उन्होंने लिए ही नहीं. So those were the areas where I thought that I should go personally, or I should request the senior most authorities to send one doctor or the senior most bureaucrat, that they should go themselves and make the women aware that due to COVID, हम जहाँ पे पूरे all worldwide we are saying that personal hygiene is important, personal hygiene is important. So for a woman in her life, menstrual hygiene is as much important as the personal hygiene. So वहाँ पे I went myself during my Saturdays, Sundays, and this is how it is going on till date.
Okay, so let's try and go to Mr. Rana, and if right now really eager to hear you. So if we can, let's go to Mr. Rana and try. Mr. Danish Rana, can we have you? He can't hear us, and I don't understand the problem actually as to why we can't connect. Anyway, okay, so now let's go to Ayush, and so Ayush, tell us as to so many things are happening. You know, people want to know so much of information that people are eager to know about. Government is trying to do many things. At times, what happens, and I think that's a challenge for you officers, is there is this lack of either communication or at times even I would say trust as to what's happening, and you know how people would reach out to officers, or officers would try and reach out in the best possible manner to people. So tell us more about those experiences and challenges also, because so many things are happening at the same time. There's a sense of panic. Every day, every newspaper, and you know that okay, the figures are rising, and you know the panic increases. We are trying to test as many people, but I think the numbers of cases of corona is really rising. Ayush, what would you say that how are we really taking this road ahead? How are we inching? How are we taking each step ahead and inching towards making people more comfortable, doing new things, working out new ideas, new schemes?
So with regard to this topic we are speaking about, because yes, a lot of things are happening, but with regard to the topic we are speaking about right now, we did have a problem with the supply chain distribution of sanitary napkins. When because what has happened, unfortunately, is if you understand how sanitary napkins are produced, sanitary napkins require a special kind of cotton. That cotton needs that cotton is not unfortunately available in many parts of the country. So the manufacturing hubs for sanitary napkins are in fact concentrated in certain pockets of the country. And since this is not a commodity that is stored very extensively, there is no person who actually keeps a large volume of sanitary napkins in any district, even a district as large as Pune or the Mumbai region. So what we found was when lockdown was announced and medical stores were left open and grocery stores were left open, sanitary napkins unfortunately got sold out rather quickly. So in the month of April and May, there was actually a shortage of sanitary napkins because when district administrations and state governments and also the national government was announcing lockdowns, unfortunately, sanitary napkin production was not considered an essential item for so for the factories to be left open. And this is unfortunately a mistake that we also did in our own district here in Pune. So when Government of India in fact announced sanitary napkin and notified sanitary napkins as an essential commodity, after then the supply chain in fact regularized across the country because e-passes were no longer required for the movement. Factories came back to life and supply chain was notified. But one challenge that we found at the level of district administrations in while implementing this order was that the Essential Commodities Act, the officers who essentially take care of the Essential Commodities Act is the district supply officer. He is basically tuned to looking after the availability of food grains. And suddenly when he is asked to look after a new commodity for which he has no orientation or a sense of understanding of the sensitivity of the issues, and also understands the supply chain, where are these sanitary napkins actually going, which are the last detail points where the sanitary napkins are going, he faced a lot of difficulty in understanding. And there was a period of time when it was left to other authorities to basically implement the order of the union government. So, but this took about 2 months for it to stabilize, and there were two talukas in our district, little remote talukas in the Western Ghats, Vella and Bhor in Pune district, which unfortunately in certain pockets had a problem of taking sanitary napkins there. The civil society stepped in at that time, and they donated a large number of sanitary napkins. Some sanitary napkins were purchased from the markets in Mumbai and were donated in a very large quantity, roughly over 1 lakh sanitary napkins and menstrual cups. Now, when it came to menstrual cups, though it is an alternate product for sanitary napkins, most women here had not used menstrual cup. Unlike the north, as other speakers are pointing out, in Maharashtra and in the southern states, there has been a movement for sanitary napkins that goes back about 10-12 years now. So most women are aware of sanitary napkins. Many of them have used sanitary napkins. Some of them have willfully stopped using sanitary napkins. There's also a scheme called the Asmita program in Maharashtra, which encourages the use of sanitary napkins, and there are subsidized distribution networks also. So, but when that was replaced with something like menstrual cups, because that was available in the market and it is reusable. So when civil society agencies were distributing menstrual cups, not many women were very keen to use menstrual cups because of visible taboo that is associated with it. Sanitary napkins can be disposed of, could be burnt away, but menstrual cup left blood in the cup, and the women were supposed to wash off those cups. So there were issues with that, social, cultural acceptance issues that we also encountered. But all of these over a period of time, about 2 to 3 months, has again stabilized the system. And the union government announcing, and the state government as well as other districts are taking this very seriously, especially the cotton producing belt, taking this very seriously and allowing the entire supply chain of sanitary napkin to come back to life rather rapidly. Really helped in improving the distribution network, the existing distribution network. And now with the announcement or the notification of the union government and state governments with regard to Essential Commodities Act, I'm sure the problem of sanitary napkins availability would not be there. Of course, cultural acceptance and its use needs to be promoted further.
Sure. Before I go ahead, I would really like our team to really put the speakers also on the screen. I can see some other visual right now. And maybe when they're speaking, the focus has to be on them. So maybe my colleagues, Sine and Akul, can work on that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So yeah, glad that now my namesake, Madam Rakhi Gupta is here. And what a pleasant feeling it is to have you here, ma'am. Somebody who's the resident commissioner, which also means that she has to coordinate a lot between the center and the state, and that's where the responsibility lies. And I'm told that this kind of responsibility you're handling so beautifully. So, Madam Rakhi, would you just come in and talk about that whole shoulder that you have to really take on that responsibility and finally smoothen out areas if there are some, let's say layers, to iron out those and really work smoothly on those. Madam Rakhi Gupta, welcome.
Thank you so much, Rakhi. Firstly, I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you are, but we can't see you. Can we put on the screen?
Yeah, I'm on the screen. I can see myself. I don't know how you can see. Is it okay?
No, so everybody. Yeah,
we are able to see you.
Am I visible as well as audible both?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
all right. So thank you so much, Rakhi. Firstly, I think it's a great platform to be on because all of us, I think as civil servants, have really tried our best during this pandemic to keep others happy. And the biggest challenge I thought was to keep ourselves happy. And I think this was a way of a catharsis for each one of us to try and do something which we weren't doing earlier, or something which was beyond our calling, or something beyond our files. And we've tried to find our own ways. I'm so glad to hear stories of Amanpreet, the young IRS officer. Really happy. My father himself was in the IRS, so proud of you. And Ayush, of course, colleague's son himself. So happy to see him doing some great work in Maharashtra. So nice to hear these lovely, warm stories. And well, yes, even I tried to find a way out. Being the resident commissioner, firstly, yes, it was challenging because you have to keep a huge connect between the central and the state government, especially during these times when I've seen crisis happens. Each one, talks his own story. So we had to try and build a common story, a common narrative, and that came through humanitarianism. So I realized that each of the resident commissioners, all of us kind of pitched in, went beyond our calling. So it wasn't just me, but all the officers who were resident commissioners for various states. Everybody tried to reach out to people who were in need of rations, who were in need of food. So it was such a wonderful experience because what happened was there were people, for instance, Bihar, people who were stuck in Punjab who didn't have food, who didn't have access to migration. Similarly, a Punjabi stuck in Gujarat. So it was huge amount of confusion, and everybody was trying to find out some methodology into the chaos. And I think the resident commissioners served a good purpose because each one of us were also on a one-to-one term basis. So it was comfortable. I knew I had to just talk to my Gujarat counterpart and I would start getting thank you messages from my Punjabi people that, yes, thank you, ma'am, food has reached, So it was so encouraging. Similarly, all my Bihar counterpart, resident commissioner, he and she both, they were both there. They both thanked us because we were able to reach out to all the Bihari labor present in Punjab and otherwise. even in various other states, we got these responses. So it was such a warm feeling because we got people to migrate, which was a huge challenge. You know, starting those trucks, getting them on starting those trains, and then getting people onto them. Also, we had the international tourists coming in, the NRI diaspora. Now, Punjab has a huge NRI diaspora, and so do other states. So we kind of facilitated them, helped them with their quarantines, and helped them where to go, what to do. So I mean, it was fun because it was a very different experience for each one of us. We've never faced this pandemic, all of us. But as officers, it was a huge challenge, but something I think we learned to kind of put up with and also learn to enjoy doing it. So this was, of course, on the professional front. On the personal front, I thought I had to make myself more useful. So I thought instead of wasting time, it was better to motivate students, especially college and university students at this point of time. They are extremely demotivated and very, very nervous. And this clue I got because my own sons now, one is, of course, he's doing his 4th year of law from the National Law University in Jodhpur. And the younger one was is an exit class. He had just finished his 12th. So the nervousness on their faces made me feel and realize that I should be doing something more for these students. So what I started doing was I started talking to them through these webinars, and I started showing them a way around and telling them that it's okay. It's a small part of life. This is going to pass, and all of us are going to come out of this. But I tried to tell them, I had a psychology background, to help me out. So I could see through the nervousness, the uncertainties, the tensions which they were facing at this point of time. And we've all been college students, Rakhi, we've all been school students. So we understand it's very, very unnerving. When you have an uncertain future, half of us are planned to go abroad and we couldn't, especially the students. So I think at this time, I try to utilize by motivating them, by giving them coping mechanisms, telling them to build huge bonds of friendship with their parents, with their teachers, and relying on the support systems. So I got wonderful feedback because quite a few college friends got in touch with me and told me, in fact, one or two of them, their children had been motivated. So it was very happy. It was a very nice experience. And I hope that, I'm continuing this now because it's become more of a hobby and a passion for me now, since so many students are benefiting out of this. So I'm trying to attend these webinars after I finish my office work and motivate these young students, our future entirely. I mean, our country depends on them, this new generation, so that they don't feel very hassled, very heckled, and very uncertain in these uncertain times. So that's what we've tried to do, Rakhi. And again, I would like to congratulate all these youngsters today, which you brought on this platform. Nice to see you all doing such great work. Please keep motivating, because, if you keep others happy, I feel you are going to be a happier person yourself. So I think if we all, it's a very selfish motive we all are serving, because if you're making other people around us happy, the same happiness is coming back to us. So thank you once again, Rakhi.
Thank you so much. What a soulful kind of, speech and exchange of ideas, which I think is happening here. Because when you talk about, let's say, bureaucrats, pardon me for saying this, but people sometimes think, oh, they are inaccessible, oh, they sit on those chairs and they don't really understand. And I think through these shows, we are also trying to put across the human face of that bureaucrat, that civil servant who's very much ready and not only equipped, has a heart to really reach out. And I think all of you are doing that, and that's wonderful. But one question, and this, of course, is directed towards two of you women. I would like to ask, very stereotypical though it may sound, but being a woman bureaucrat, I mean, has it been any different from, let's say, had you been a male one? Rakhi ma'am and Amanpreet both.
You asked a very sensitive question. We've been talking about a lot of issues which we've not talked about earlier. And since Amanpreet has made us all very bold, well, this was a taboo word, Amanpreet. Earlier, our times, 20 years back, we weren't allowed. And even today, I find it very difficult to get it out of my own self. So that's the kind of taboo we all hold. But yes, but talking about it in the open, and especially Ayush coming out with it, it's so heartening, so encouraging. So, but you're so right, Rakhi, it is very different as a woman bureaucrat. Firstly, in patriarchal India, we have to accept it's a reality still. Though we've tried to get over patriarchy, but it's not so simple. It's still there somewhere, deep down, etched somewhere in the minds of people. Especially when I'm a Delhiite, and when I've studied from Lady Shri Ram College and Delhi School of Economics and where all, but when I came to Punjab, that's my cadre, I found it a very patriarchal state. Yes, Amanpreet, your state is pretty patriarchal. And I got posted to all the districts where I was a first woman. So there was a huge amount of resistance. They couldn't imagine कि बाहरली कुड़ी कित्थों आ गई जी, ये कित्थे साढ़े सर पे बह जाएगी. How can she rule, But well, so I found ways around the thing. So instead of kind of trying to shoo them away, I tried to build bonds of love and affection. So we tried getting, people who were tied up in chains, people who were very distressed, taking a lot of drugs, so substance abuse. So we try to get them out of that. So the resistance, very soon people realize that yes, women have a different way of doing things. And the minute they got to know that, I remember our own chief minister once, he came to the district and he said, now you said you didn't want a lady, should I get her out now? It's enough. So he said, nahi ji, ye janani bahut vadiya hundi hai ji, ye sanu bahut acha samajhdi hai. So pardon me for, talking a little bit in Punjabi, because as women, we are emotional, we are more sensitive, a little more concerned towards needs of people. So it's in our DNA. I mean, you can't help it because we raise children, we raise families. So raising a district, raising a country and being in a job comes very naturally to us. अगर हम kitchen संभाल सकते हैं, तो हम बहुत अच्छे से देश को भी संभाल सकते हैं. But yes, as women, we need to put in a lot of hard work. And we are going to be extra cautious when we do that, because every time we compete, let's compete with ourselves instead of competing with the men. I always say that. Somehow we are in the habit of saying mere ko us aadmi se acha banna hai. Why don't we compete with our own selves? You'll rise automatically. You don't need to compete with anybody. It's you yourself who's the competition.
I think that's a very nice ma'am, that you're saying, be a better version of yourself, as they say, and improve upon your own capabilities rather than, and that's where I think the problem sometimes lies. And for example, you have men like Ayush. I mean, look at the kind of work he does, as a bureaucrat, not only as a male bureaucrat, but the kind of sensitivity he brings about. In fact, I was just reading something and
Rakhi, I'm just joining in. Sorry to join in. I'm just mentioning this. Ayush is very special because Ayush is a very special mother. She's a very sensitive individual, a very sensitive human being. I've interacted with her both officially as well as in a personal capacity. So he's really got all these special genes from his mom. I can see that completely.
In fact, I can just see Madam also writing something, and I think, if I'm not wrong, Madam Amita Prasad, she's joined in, and who's mother of Ayush Prasad. I'm so thankful if she's the one who's just writing the things. And we welcome you, ma'am. I mean, wherever you are, whether you've joined in and even if you haven't, but I think we're thankful to you for raising a son like Ayush, who brings so much meaning to the work that is given to him, and brings that sensitivity towards women and towards, all towards the society as a whole, and also all kinds of people, especially people who sometimes are at the margin, because Ayush is working in rural areas. He's worked out on some very relevant schemes for these people who are poor, who live in remote areas, who have less access to resources, and that's where he is doing a lot of work. In fact, and I can share this with you, that I've spoken to one of his seniors, and he said that, this guy is really doing some wonderful work, and what that is, Ayush, we need more men like you. Not only that you're a bureaucrat, but the approach that you have towards becoming a team, being together, working together, and taking it all ahead as partners, and not men versus women. And I think that's the platform also, like Her World tries to and endeavors to do, is to create that kind of synergy between all elements of society and to go ahead. And I'm so glad today that all of you who represent that very idea of harmony, of equality, and of a holistic developmental growth that we are looking at. So thank you, Ayush, for being what you are. But anything else that you'd like to say, also as parents, I mean, both your parents are bureaucrats, as to when we look at how, and this is a little different question, how we are raised, because Rakhi Gupta ma'am talked about it, in whatever profession we are, how we are raised and how we get that approach towards life, and then bring about that meaning to whatever work, whether you're in MNC or a government service or a teacher or a journalist. The problems are everywhere when we're talking about men and the mindset. So Ayush, what would you say? What makes the difference?
So I'm a little surprised and a little nervous to see my mother on this program. I did not expect her to be here. So since she's here, it makes me a little nervous. But that apart, I'd like to say that of course, having been brought up the way I've been brought up, having seen very strong women in my growing up years, my mother being the most strongest woman I think I've known. It does really create an atmosphere where you do not see men and women differently. There is no difference per se between what a man or a woman can achieve, and this is something that we've been brought up thinking about. And after joining service, there were two areas that we grew up in government colonies in various places, and the idea of casteism and genderism, these two were very absent from our growing up years. And of course, once I started working on the field, I came to realize very strongly that these two are very strongly ingrained ideas, and in variety of situations. And when we talk about equality, so I'd want to also point out a couple of things here. Since 2013, the number of women entering higher education institutes in India has crossed men. Now, I think roughly 58% of the admissions into colleges are women. And that has begun to show in a more diversity in batches. So, for example, in the latest IAS batch of 2020, that you would probably know that, or 2019 rather, sorry, 58 women of 180, that is roughly 33%. That is the reservation levels that we talk about. But 33% women have already entered government service in the Indian administrative services, and that has begun to change a lot of things. One of the things that ma'am was just mentioning, that first woman to get posted, there are now that has slowly begun to change, especially with the newer batches, and because the glass ceiling has been shattered by the previous generations and the senior officers who are working on the field. So you would find that all officers, you would hear stories about seniors of getting posted to offices where no other woman has been posted to, and there was no female toilets. Currently, female toilets are there, and now there's a movement demanding for more toilet seats in a female toilet than it is designed in a male toilet. So this is the Right to Pee movement, if you are aware of. It's a very strong movement in Mumbai, the region around Mumbai. So things have begun to change, but being a male bureaucrat working on female issues, that also brings in a lot of challenges in itself. To be very honest, a lot of people are very surprised about why are you showing sensitivity to this issue? Why are you even bothered about an issue when there is an ongoing pandemic where you are other issues to be bothered about? And that is the kind of thing that a kind of value, it is a form of value that needs to be ingrained into children, no matter, regardless of the gender. Because if you have that value system, no matter what the temptations are, or no matter how the situations are, you'd always look out for the last person in the line. You'd always think about people, even though you may not be able to empathize, to feel the same pain. You would be able to understand their situations, and you would be able to empathize with them better. So this is something that your value systems that are ingrained from childhood comes. And this is something that we all struggle with while we are looking after a variety of things. So, and one final thing I'd like to point out that unfortunately, I see very often in the field that when one way we talk about women's equality, but at the same time, it does become difficult for a male officer to work with a large number of women. Especially I'm seeing in the pandemic situation where people are asking out of duties that I'm a female officer, I cannot come on a Sunday, I have to look after this situation. It does become very difficult. That is one area that I would, when we talk about women's equality, I know women do shoulder a lot of household responsibilities that men are usually saved from. But at the same time, being an administrative officer, leading a team, it does become difficult when you have to sit down and plan that it. So these things also, when we talk about equality, one is equality of opportunity, but also equality of results. And I know it is a little harder, but if we start having equality of results, like I don't think I've ever heard my mother saying that this is a job not meant for women. And after coming into the service, I've understood that she has held positions which would typically be seen to be male positions within the bureaucratic system. So I would also, we need to also create a system where women do not actually start saying that I'm not willing to do an X particular job or a Y particular job because I'm a woman. They may have other issues at home which any other man may have, and then or health conditions or things like that. Then that is fine. But when women start doing that more and more, you would see that acceptance of women, even within the administrative thought process or the strategic planning, would begin to change very much. So this is a problem that I see from the other side.
Okay, point well taken. I think these are the points that we are also looking at trying to analyze, and these are the process that we are getting to. And that's why Parwal is looking at all these aspects of importantly, Ayush, and we're taking note of all these things you're saying. And we will continue to actually go analyze and get on to, as you say, results as to how you can create. Because, I always say this when you talk about this whole gender aspect and men versus women or men and women, is that it's all about being together. Like when you're saying 100% development, it can't be just 50%. So the other 50% has to come about and deliver results for the growth and development of any society or nation. So yes, but then these are the challenges, as you say, that one is trying to really understand. So for example, I can tell you that when we talk to sometimes some of the corporate companies, which have now programs that to look into, how women employees feel. And that's one need assessment, and they are trying to understand how we can have more productivity coming out from women, because there are certain challenges, which is like after marriage, childbirth, things like that. So we are grappling that with those issues. We recently, in one of our talk shows, we talked about women when they work and they work against all odds. How is it for women? So we are taking up those issues, and in fact, we take cue from this. I don't know if my team can tell me that Mr. Danish Rana is audible or is available or not, because we really want to also hear from him. Snin and Nakul, can we have Mr. Rana there? Is he there? Okay. Change of mindset, that's what Madam Amita Prasad, we're very thankful to you, ma'am, and look for your inspirational lines that you've been writing today on our show. And she is talking about the mindset, and I think that's a very important element. How do you actually, when you talk about bringing gender equality, you tackle mindsets? I mean, you've only touched upon a very, very minuscule ratio of what we are grappling with. I think there is a sea of horizon of issues that are still untouched. I mean, talk about, let's say, village in Haryana and the kind of things which are happening there. People don't even talk about it. Talking about things also becomes a great taboo and challenge. So the fact that we need to open up, we need to speak out is very, very important. And then not only speaking out, but stepping out. That's what Amanpreet is doing. So Amanpreet, how has it been? I mean, tell us some anecdotes, some stories when you step out and the kind of things that you sometimes face. And people say, "Apna kaam dekh ke aap ye sab kya kar rahi hai," kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. This happened as, first of all, Rakhi ma'am, I am a big fan of Rahul sir and Rakhi sir, because I've been grown up in Punjab, Ludhiana, and my father has made me meet some of the bureaucrats, and I've heard a lot about you. And Rakhi ma'am, when Rakhi ma'am was heading a water and sanitation department sometime back, and she might be knowing the ground realities of this ministry, water and sanitation, that still there are certain parts of our country jahan pe the community toilets are being used by the women. So in areas pe, when the greatest problem is these women don't use sanitary pads, and they use clothes. And when they इनका method use करने का method होता है, they tend to reuse these clothes time and again. And क्योंकि ये social taboos है कि वो कपड़ा किसी को दिखना नहीं चाहिए, जो इनके गद्दे होते हैं बेड्स के, they tend to keep these clothes अपने गद्दे के नीचे या बेड के नीचे, so that कि वो किसी को दिखाई ना दे. So the next time when they use, still they are damp. So this is the main reason कि इनको many problems, many health diseases related to periods लगती हैं पंजाब में. And in one of the distribution camps, I must say, the ration was thrown away by the people, telling कि ये राशन आपने गंदा कर दिया क्योंकि इसमें आपने हमें sanitary pads दे दिए. And then we were seen, okay, हमने, क्योंकि we knew that we are not going to change mindset within a span of 1 month or 2 months. So we thought, okay, we'll keep the cartons with the ration supplies, and people will come and take the supplies from the cartons itself. but you will be surprised to know that in Punjab also some areas और हरियाणा में भी yes, and the remote areas जो हमारे यूपी के कई areas थे, यहाँ पे even the women refused to pick up. They said कि वहाँ पे मेल खड़े हुए थे इसलिए हमने लिए नहीं. तो then again it was a challenge. But slowly and slowly, Rakhi ma'am, what we saw the change, हम जैसे change of mindset की बात कर रहे हैं, within a span of 1 or 2 weeks, these women started picking up the sanitary pads. फिर अपने दुपट्टे में लपेट के जाती थी या अपनी साड़ी में लपेट के जाती थी. But yes, they did start picking up. And men, of course, I'm talking about big industrialists who called me up and said कि बेटा पैसे तो दे देंगे लेकिन इस चीज के लिए तुमने क्या करने हैं, इस चीज की क्या जरूरत है. तो I have to tell these so-called educated people also, and there were some bureaucrat male officers also who told me कि क्या करने लगे हो तुम कोविड के टाइम पे, घर पे तुम्हारी छोटी बच्ची है, you have a mother-in-law at home, so don't do this, stay back, stay back, stay back. But this was one thing which touched my heart कि if there are some people of our fraternity also, तो बाकी लोगों का क्या होगा अगर इनका ही माइंडसेट अभी चेंज करना पड़ेगा. तो देन अ ब्यूटीफुल प्लेटफॉर्म वाज ओपन ड्यूरिंग दिस कोविड, करुणा करके, करुणा प्लेटफॉर्म. इसमें 29 सिविल सर्विसेज के जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स थे, दे वर रिप्रेजेंटिंग, और हमारे जो IRS एसोसिएशन के हेड है BK झा सर, ही वाज हेडिंग. So in one of the messages I've heard about Rakhi ma'am also, जहाँ पे this Karuna platform जो migrants जा रहे थे, जो और प्रॉब्लम्स लोगों को आ रही थी, तो they were distributing ration to them. हमारे दिल्ली में ही IRS जो हमारे फ्लैट्स हैं इन गिरनार और कौशाम्बी, whole of the flats, whole of the occupants, IRS officers, इन्होंने एक पराठा मूवमेंट चलाई जो माइग्रेंट्स दिल्ली से जा रहे थे. each house would make 100 parathas और जो भी उनकी रिक्वायरमेंट होती थी, and they used to send these to the migrant laborers, either who were going through buses or who were going through the trains. So this was the beauty of this platform which was given to us. तो जब इस प्लेटफॉर्म का पता लगा तो I said कि सर जहाँ जहाँ पे ये migrants जा रहे हैं तो इनको हम राशन के साथ can we add sanitary pads, and this step was welcomed by all. So we started distributing sanitary pads along with ration also. And then many factories owners, they joined us, and I usually जैसे मैं भी पंजाब से हूँ तो I knew the mindset, तो मैं I used to target the men only कि भी आप ही जाके दो, अगर आपकी फैक्ट्रीज में लेडीज आती हैं तो give them the free supply of sanitary pads. तो sometimes तो उनको लगता होगा कि अब इसको महिला को मना कैसे करे, तो कुछ जगह पे जबरदस्ती भी पिटवाया. yes, and yes, as Ayush rightly said, बहुत सी प्रॉब्लम्स है, बहुत सी लेडीज ने रिजेंट किया, क्योंकि अभी भी अगर आप देखो राखी जी कि सैनिटरी हेल्थी मेंस्ट्रुअल जो प्रोडक्ट्स होते हैं, ये औरतें तीन चीज, वन इज अवेलेबिलिटी, one is cost, and then the major factor is the social norms which are associated. कौन सैनिटरी पैड यूज करेगा, कौन बायोडिग्रेडेबल पैड्स यूज करेगा, कौन मेंस्ट्रुअल प्रोडक्ट्स यूज करेगा, कौन टेम्पून यूज करेगा. yes, these all depend on the social norms which women are following. And during this COVID, और जब ये especially during the lockdown, when I reached to the slum areas, तो ये तो वो वाली women थी who were going to use the sanitary products for the first time. तो आई थॉट कि भाई कोविड हो चाहे ना हो, इनका तो माइंडसेट चेंज करना, इनको ये बताना कि दीज आर द हेल्दी वेज टू टैकल योर मेंस्ट्रुअल नीड्स. उसको फिर हमने कोविड से रिलेट किया, उनको समझाया, क्योंकि हम उसके साथ मास्क भी बांट रहे थे, साबुन भी बांट रहे थे स्लम एरियाज में. सो आई कोरिलेटेड कोविड विद दिस मेंस्ट्रुअल थिंग. भाई कोविड से बचोगे अगर आप अपनी मेंस्ट्रुअल नीड्स को भी, इसको भी हेल्दी वे में आप करना शुरू करोगे. तो हमारे लुधियाना के ही मधुर वर्मा है, नाउ ही इज इन अरुणाचल प्रदेश, पोस्टेड इन एज अ DIG. So he sent me a congratulation message ke Aman, congratulations, you are doing a wonderful work. Then I thought, okay, one more mail. So I again messaged him, sir, will you do it in Arunachal? And instantly the message came, tell me how to move forward. And this is how we reached Arunachal Pradesh through Madhur Verma, again a male officer. And Tihar jail mein jo abhi is time DG hai, I called him up. तो इस टाइम पे आई डोंट नो कहाँ से करे जाता था. आई हैड द करेज टू कॉल अप द सीनियर ऑफिसर्स, बिकॉज आई न्यू दैट दिस इज वन सच कॉज, मुझे कोई डांटेगा नहीं. और जब उनको सर को मैंने बोला कि सर तिहाड़ जेल में आई वांट टू सेंड, तो ही सेड कि हमारे यहाँ पे ऑलरेडी मशीन लगी हुई है, the women make these pads themselves. Because Rakesh, again, just Ayush told that the raw material used for the making of these pads, it was not available, and I knew the ground reality. This is ये शायद अगस्त की बात ही है. So then, sir, please can you confirm again कि जो तिहाड़ जेल में women inmates हैं उनके तक पहुंच पा रहे हैं कि नहीं? Then again he called up and said कि yes, Aman, you were right कि तिहाड़ जेल में last month ये नहीं पहुंचे हैं. Can you send it? तो this is what then I called up whole my batchmates कि आपके areas में जितनी भी jails हैं, जितने भी महिला थानास हैं, can you provide them? तो ये एक chain बनती गई, and the males, females, everybody joined me in the movement. And I think कि अगर इन सब की males, females, बच्चों की, even the college going women, मुझे AIMS से एक बार call आई जो वहाँ की residents nurses हैं कि मैम we heard about you, और इसलिए हम जो AIMS के जो हमारे class 4 जो ladies हैं, जो महिला staff है, we want to distribute to them. And yesterday only the girl told me कि मैम we have already distributed. So this is what बिहार में जब floods आए, जब बंगाल में अम्फान आया, तो वहाँ पे I called up my batchmates. तो अम्फान वाली, it's a very heart touching story when the pads reached the Bali island of Sundarbans through my batchmate Atul Pandey, who was already providing them the temporary houses he was trying to construct. So I told Atul, can you send these sanitary pads along with the ration and all the tarpaulins and all? So he agreed, and I told him, Atul, I need the videos and I need to talk to the women. But he said that it will take 4 hours to reach the Bali island. तो वहाँ की जब एक दिन के बाद photographs आई, तो then he called me up and said कि Aman, you were so right. If the women have specially told कि please जिसने भी ये भेजे हैं उस दीदी को जाके कि ये कहना कि दीदी हमारे पास एक भी सूखा कपड़ा नहीं था कि हम जिसको जिसका पैड बना लेते, जिसको हम यूज कर लेते. This is a very so many stories I can tell. In one of the distributions,
these stories we are going to actually write about also. Manpreet, thank you so much for sharing this. But one question which I think to all of you, and maybe Rakhi ma'am is there still, we are talking about all the good work that you're trying to do. But in this pandemic, what we're also seeing, and I want to touch on that, is those mental health problems that people have, the stress which is leading to that. At times what happens is that however much that you're doing, people sometimes say, oh, not much is happening. I mean, so I want to really ask you, for example, I can just mention that we all know that this news coming in today that one lady officer, in fact, faced some attack, and we all wrote actually on social media that we condemned it and we wanted the culprits to be booked immediately. So, sometimes what happens is that you have to face the brunt, so to say. Though you don't deserve it, because you're trying to do as much within the ambit of the duties that you're given, you're going beyond those duties to actually address the problems that people face. So what happens, I mean, how would you really look at that part, that what COVID has also told us is to also look at that inner resilience, the inner motivation that has propped up in us, whether we are journalists or bureaucrats or, as I say, academicians or whichever profession. I think this human element is coming out to the best, to the fore. And that's what is a unique, I think, element that COVID-19 or a crisis like this has taught us or imbibed in us. So, Rakhi ma'am, if you can just tell us, how does one actually deal with those problems, the psychological ones, the mental health problems that people have? How would you look at that?
Yes, Rakhi, you're so absolutely right, because this is one area which is very untouched, and again it is one of those areas we don't talk about much, but it is a reality. Sadly, people are depressed, people have no coping mechanisms, they're very scared to talk about their own insecurities, uncertainties. But as I used to keep an adage on my table even when I was studying, that when the going gets tough, we have to get tougher. So I think this inner resilience really comes to our rescue then. Every time you face somebody or something which disappoints you, it's okay, just get up and walk again. And I think Amanpreet is a standing example of that. I remember even while we were watching this movie called Padman, Akshay Kumar's movie, it was a bunch of us civil servants watching it. Believe me, none of us were even looking at each other. We were watching the movie so straight as if we were embarrassed even watching the movie. So, and each one of us had tears in our eyes. So we knew that what was happening was real, but we were just so, unsure to face this reality ourselves. And Aman, I have to salute you. You're a real warrior, because now I also believe that women need women to back them up. And I'm sure I'm there to stand by you anytime you need me, because it's a huge amount of grit, courage, and determination you've shown in this truly man's world, where a woman is just going around distributing sanitary napkins. It's amazing. So I think she's one of those examples, and I'm sure we have so many others who are untouched and untalked about. And it's really nice, Rakhi, that you're getting these stories into the open. More girls, more women are going to get motivated. I'm glad, Amanpreet, if I've touched your life in some way in Ludhiana. I don't know how. Of course, I'm going to get to speak to you now personally. But really happy to know that if I've touched your life somewhere, it makes me happy to feel that, yes, there's one individual at least I was able to motivate. And I'm hoping to do it to so many others now. So, Rakhi, we need to be resilient. We need to have coping mechanisms. And I said also that, our friends, our parents, our support structures, our teachers, all these need to be taken into confidence. We normally nowadays, we feel all these youngsters also, I tell them, आप लोग को लगता है कि, nani, dadi and all are useless, इन्हें sociology नहीं आती, इन्हें maths नहीं आता. But उन्हें सब आता है, उन्होंने age में सब कुछ किया है. They may not know your calculus and they may not know your Parsons theory of sociology, but they know so much more. आप उनके साथ 10 मिनट बैठ के लूडो का गेम खेलिए, they will teach you so many things in life जो आप 3 किताबों से भी नहीं पढ़ पाएंगे. So I'm telling all these youngsters, go sit with your grandparents, get them home, मजे करो, उनके साथ बैठो. This is a great time, otherwise all of us were running around. किसी के पास Swiggy, Zomato से खाना आ रहा था, कोई फटाफट घर से बाहर मूवी देखने जा रहा था. Somebody was going, to meet friends. It was all an escape mechanism where nobody really wanted to be in the house. Now everybody is stuck. We are all there together. So it's great that each one of us, take hold of these support systems and discuss them in the open. आप बोलिए आपको आज दुख हो रहा है, बच्चा बोले मेरे से ये पढ़ाई नहीं हुई, मुझे मजा नहीं आ रहा. There'll be ways, there'll be 10 people in the house teaching them what to do. So I think all of us need to take recourse to these strong coping mechanisms which are inbuilt in our Indian society so beautifully. All the Western societies today are aping us, our joint families and our very strong family bonds. So let's make use of it and also help each other. Instead of competition, let's make it a cooperation thing. So each one of us can prosper. I don't know why each one of us wants to be bigger, better, smarter, faster, मैं ज़्यादा successful. There's nothing at the end of it. It'll all come back to 1 plus 10 plus 13 plus 14 will end up to a big zero. We are all there in the same zero at the end of the game. So while we're in the game, let's enjoy playing the game, guys, instead of trying to make our lives very unhappy by competing with each other or saying, no, Amanpreet is not, ये बहुत अच्छा काम कर रही है, इसको down करेंगे, इसको दूसरे को, we're going to say, ये क्या बेकार काम कर रही है. Instead of, encouraging her, I'm sure there'll be so many people trying to demotivate her. So I'm trying to give you strength and all such women today who are running this forum, so that we are behind you, we are your strong mentors, and we're going to back you till the end. So just go on and go on in the sojourn with you, guys, all of you. And thanks, Rakhi, once again for, letting me and my thoughts come into this forum today.
I'm so touched, I can tell you, because these exactly are the words that we really want to hear. This. So these words of solidarity, I think when I talk about gender equality, one word which really immediately comes to me is solidarity, that how we have to give each other shoulder, we have to hold hands, and that's how we can go. We don't have to look down, compete and all that, and we really need to, go together. And of course, I won't really exclude a man like Ayush out, because he's also doing his best. But Ayush, let me ask you this now. We are talking about all the goodness which is happening, but tell us about sometimes the kind of support that you need, the kind of ideas you have, but sometimes you are not really able to do that. So the whole not so happy part, talk about that also, as to how you'd like to do much more. In fact, you can also tell us what would you expect. What are your, आपकी उम्मीद क्या है, आपके aspirations क्या है, how would you really like to come up and do more given the chance? So what are you looking at, Ayush?
Do more, of course, there are so many million things to do all the time. And where we usually fall short in trying to do more is when we are not able to communicate our ideas strongly enough, when there's no budget to implement those ideas. And third, when we do not have the administrative capacity to implement those ideas, because you may not have the people who may be interested to work on certain aspects. Of course, behind every one successful project, there are about 10 unsuccessful projects, and that is that is possibly the the rule of life, how it works either in the government sector as well as in the corporate sector. Just to give an example, currently Pune has been considered the hotspot for coronavirus in the country. I once had a senior call me from another state and ask me कि you were a very hardworking person, क्या हो गया Pune इस बार ऐसे कैसे flop कर गया, because I think तुम्हारी शादी के बाद तुमने काम करना बंद कर दिया. And that was definitely not the case. But having said that, it is very difficult to, like, when it's something like corona pandemic hits in an area which is otherwise also very prone to viral diseases and communicable diseases from historical perspective as well. It does become very difficult, and to keep people motivated is an extremely difficult thing, and keep yourself motivated is also very difficult thing. So what has happened currently, if I may point out, so motivating people is one side, but motivating people in your own team, within your own organization, within your own system is another very difficult challenge that all of us face, especially working as civil servants. Currently, if I may say, my I have 13 block development officers who work and report to me. Of them, 5 of them are currently admitted in hospitals and are with corona, because they've been going on the field, running around. They're all affected by corona. The district health officer's father is admitted in a hospital and is fighting for his life because of corona. And all of us, including the district health officer, are putting on that mask and going out there to survey out more people, finding more people, trying to save lives, and keeping that motivation going. Every day, my wife would tell me and then complain about it to my parents as well, that I'm not taking sufficient precautions and I'm running around here and there. But then unless you yourself are visible on the field, you yourself are going to those hospitals, or you yourself are going to those hotspot villages or gram panchayats or municipal wards, you would not see those results. And this is something that you need to keep doing, and you need to keep motivating. With every fallen person, yesterday we lost one of our village development officers to corona, and looking at him, there were 50 others who got demotivated. And you cannot motivate them sitting in comfort of your house or your office and on Zoom calls. You have to go down there in the field. You have to take the pulse oximeter and the thermal gun in your hand, and you yourself have to start surveying out and lead by that example. You have to get into those hospitals. And sometimes my boss, in fact, has worn PPE and gone to each of the hospitals in Pune and worn a PPE, walked into each wards basically to motivate and check whether we are providing best of clinical treatments. He's not a doctor, but he has done that just to motivate and to guide and to help and to do whatever it takes to basically push people forward. So motivation and keeping people engaged, especially from within the team, especially in this long pandemic, because it's been 6 months. We have been working in what we call an election mode. Election mode working is when you take something up as an initiative, put all other works to your side, and try to deliver and show results. That usually lasts for about 5 weeks, 6 weeks, right from the announcement of the elections to the results. This has gone out for 6 months. This has gone out for 6 months, and people are fatigued. People are sometimes disappointed with their own results. Things are not in your hand, and then there are people who are questioning you and questioning how well you've been managing to deliver. Yes, there are successes. We have saved lives which have otherwise would have been lost. We have prevented a further outbreak. So if you compare with districts, adjoining districts, we are at a quarter of their number of cases. Being a larger population, we see a larger number of people here, but then even then we are at a quarter of that. But in spite of that, keeping yourself motivated, even when everybody is questioning you, there are people from international media who would turn up one day and ask you that this is going bad. The local media would be questioning that the food was served with extra salt, and all sorts of questions that you have hired a doctor who doesn't really know his stuff and things like that. So you have all sorts of questions to be answered. And then being an IAS officer, and every service has their own challenges. IAS has a unique challenge, which is this is probably the only amongst the 23 civil services, the only service that takes a financial risk. Your decision is financially audited. Your policy is financially questioned. Years from now, when you'll be sitting with an ideal book and people would be questioning that, why did you buy an N95 mask for 168 rupees when otherwise in a usual price in a pre-corona day it was available for 145 rupees. But without that N95 mask, you would not have saved any of those lives. So these are questions that would come on to you. This is risk of the job. The bureaucrat you mentioned was attacked is actually my batchmate serving in Ambala. So she was attacked, and this is again a risk of the job that comes with it. It's like a soldier saying that I would not want to face bullets. So there is a lot of pressure, and there is a lot of questions, and this is a job in which you are not asked that, like, even if 1 little millimeter of glass is empty, you would be questioned that why that millimeter of glass is empty, and that is all that would be asked about, and you would not be appreciated for what you have actually put into that glass. So that is, and keeping people motivated is a huge challenge, especially in this time, and especially when you're leading a very large team.
Absolutely, Ayush. And in fact, Amanpreet would agree that we see it a lot on social media sometimes, that you get bouquets, but I mean, sometimes the bricks also, because people expect a lot out of you, and you're trying to, of course, deliver. There are questions coming in, and I think Ishrat from Jammu and Kashmir, who always joins us, also has a question. So can we have Anushka, Ishrat, if she has a question?
Yes, ma'am. I can see her on screen, but I think she just have to unmute herself.
Hello.
Ji Ishrat,
Yeah.
bataiye aap.
Am I audible?
You are.
Thank you so much, Rakhi. Actually, first of all, we all want to thank you because आप ये इतने टॉपिक्स लेके आते हो, हम अपने अपने स्टेट में बैठे और खासकर मैं 2G पे ये सब देख पाती हूँ, ये सब जान पाती हूँ. It's appreciable about you. Then, Amanpreet ji, it's really nice. I have no words to express my this. कि मुझे यहाँ पे पता चल रहा कि क्या क्या हमारे अराउंड हो रहा है. And people like you, women like you, teach us. Only we women can support our sisters. Exactly. So,
in fact, I must share here, and if I'm audible, is that I mean, we invited Mr. Danish Rana. That's why, because we wanted Jammu and Kashmir to be heard, because
exactly. I was looking at him that it's a 2G problem. Maybe he must be cutting his voice or videos. This is because of 2G, and I'm living in Srinagar. That's why थोड़ा सा चल रहा शायद. So इस पे but
okay. So maybe yeah. So that's why Ishrat, we wanted him to be there, and we will have more personalities joining in our future talk shows from Northeast and Jammu and Kashmir. Our that is one thing that her world is focusing at in all talk shows, that we want to have those voices which are often not heard, and we want to give these voices a platform through her world, so that these stories which people only all these mainstream faces, big personalities who get all the space either on TV or media or these kind of platforms. We want to actually give those voices the platform which are marginalized, which are often less heard, and which really needs those stories that needs to be told. And that's where we are. And I'm glad that all of you have really shared your experiences. I think I'm really thinking right now that we can have another edition, more people joining in maybe and talking about these things, because it leads to further development. When you hear these stories, when you come together, you learn from each other, you share ideas, and then when you go back home, you work on those new ideas. Say, एक हिम्मत आती है कि कल को अब मैं ये काम करूंगी बेहतर तरीके से या करूंगा. I think that's the idea of platform like these, which her world also represents.
Sorry to interrupt. I was thinking I'm doing so much working for rural education and going daily traveling a lot. But when I heard about Amanpreet ji, I think I feel I'm doing nothing. I'm doing nothing. People like her motivated us, teach us. Basically, what we need is because there are so many needs in women which we can discuss, which they can discuss from rulers and but when about it's bad, it's sanity bad. So there is so much height जो वो छुपाते हैं फिर ऐसे. So people like अमनप्रीत जी ऐसे आते हैं, हमें सिखाते हैं कि नहीं हमें कैसे उन बहनों के पास जाना है, कैसे सिखाना है, तो कैसे इस टॉपिक को सामने लाना है जो कि बेसिकली बहुत जरूरी, जो कि वो है जरूरी देन फैशन एंड ऑल दैट अकॉर्डिंग टू मी. तो उस हिसाब से.
So Amanpreet, you have a next destination which is Jammu and Kashmir to kind of, and I can join hands with you to work in these areas because I worked in Jammu and Kashmir also. Yeah. So it's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ishrat ji.
Yeah. Actually, another problem, अगर मैं शो ज्वाइन कर रही हूँ तो मेरा बोलना बहुत जरूरी होता है थोड़ा सा भी. So
yeah, बहुत शुक्रिया. Is there anyone else asking a question? Anushka, ne? Any other questions coming in?
Is anyone has a question from the viewers? You can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Thank you so much, Rakhi.
I don't
Thank you, and all the best, Mishra ji. Always join us. It really inspires us, encourages us. Thank you so very much for joining in. और ये 2G आपका सलाम है उसको.
Ma'am, so I don't see any more questions, but wait.
Okay.
We don't have any more questions, but I would also like to ask the speaker. I mean, any of the speakers could take this up. Thank you so much for firstly, placing so much emphasis on gender sensitization and creating empathetic structures in the on the field and while working. And I was just wondering that since sensitization must happen young, and education plays a big role in taking this message across to students, to young students who come across all parts of India and university spaces and schools. So how far do you think that the new education policy, for that matter, carries this vision forward while it speaks about trying to infuse a certain sense of gender sensitization in schools? And that's just an open-ended question that any of our speakers could take up.
Maybe we can look at Rakhi Gupta, ma'am. Not her, but I know that her husband deals with educational subjects, so she's there.
So I'll step in till everybody comes in. So about education policy, national education policy has for the first time tried to bring in certain cultural aspects to education, which was otherwise education had an end result in education was about developing students. Now there is a cultural aspect to education, one of which is gender sensitization, which Anushka ji has very clearly pointed out. I am working on the state education policy within the framework that is being provided by the national education policy for the state of Maharashtra currently. And as part of that committee, we are looking at how, because what has happened is at certain locations, you'll have to challenge existing cultural beliefs with education. And when you typically try to challenge cultural belief in the classroom vis-a-vis what is happening outside the classroom, there's a natural conflict that comes up. And there are times when teachers and people who are actually teaching would somehow skip or may not be sensitized enough to take over those responsibilities. So for example, if religious polarization is very, very strongly existing in the society outside, and you are trying to teach secularism to students, you would find it is typically very, very hard to teach that through programs and processes in classroom, because these sort of things have to be culturally ingrained into the society rather than taught in classrooms. So this is a challenge that we are grappling with. How do we create activities? How do we create methods that gender sensitization and it should not become a chapter in the textbook, but how do we create that is being looked at. So currently SCERT, the State Council for Research and Education, is currently working out, is trying to find stories from the past which highlight gender sensitization. So it is going to be not something that is going to be like a moral science education thing. So while studying, say, English, or while having a chapter on history, you would find chapters or lessons or poems and things like that on gender sensitization. That is one area that we are going to be working on. Second area that we are going to be doing in gender sensitization is around activities, because activity-based learning is something that has been highlighted. And so it is about activities, and trying to ingrain it is another aspect. Teacher training is going to be a third very challenging aspect. But again, we are still grappling with answers on how to effectively deliver the vision that has been highlighted in the National Education Policy of 2020.
Okay, that's I think that really beautifully answers, Anushka, your question, and also looks at what we we are going to see in new education policy. We are looking at all these elements right now, but I think these things in understanding. Do we still have Mr. Rana there, or we? I mean, what I can always do is to have him in my next show, where we really work a lot on the audio part and really solve it and sort it out. But I can tell you, since he's not here, but he participated, and we saw him, that he is also a great author. And while doing policing, I'm told when we were talking that there are things that he's doing, to bring more safety to women and women who are especially in the region of Jammu and Kashmir and Jammu especially where he is. And I think through his books, he brings another dimension to a bureaucrat's life, where literature, which empowers people, soulfully, is something that he's also doing. So maybe we'll really be able to hear him in one of our next talk shows, and we'll request him to be there. But right now, I think thank you so much. I'm really thankful, Ayush, that Amita ma'am also joined us. Rakhi ma'am, who took time actually to talk about this. What a wonderful experience it has been. And I can tell you, Manpreet, I want to work with you because I mean it's like so many areas that I think are still untouched, and we have to go there and do this. We are all, I mean, beautiful bond of sisters that we saw, and of course some men who are lending really the warm hand, which is very appreciable. So thank you so much once again. I can imagine that this kind of show can go on, and we talk about all those things that we want to talk about, especially at a time when we love talking, with such a warm approach. But thank you so much from the Her World team, Honor of Women, and Miranda House. I really thank you so much, all of you, for being here. We look forward to the feedback. We look forward to more voices coming in, which talks about gender equality and sensitivity in all areas. And we really go ahead together as we say this from Her World. Thank you so much, and all the best to all of you.
A warm thanks to all our speakers for joining us, and to all our viewers for so patiently, being with us and contributing to the discussion so meaningfully. And I would just like to say that Her World is still at the outset, and we're looking at great things in the future. And we would all want you to look at our work closely. And like we've shared our social media handles. We do post on Instagram a lot, so please look at us and tell us where we can improve. We're open to your feedback, and a couple of people did write about sharing their feedback. You can write to us on our email ID, and it's posted on the chats. And beyond that, I think all of us will continue associating with each other, and we look forward to more discussions in the future. Thank you again, all our speakers, Amanpreet ma'am, Rakhi ma'am, Ayush sir, and Danish sir, though he couldn't really join us today. Hopefully in the future. Thank you, everybody, and hope to see all of you soon.
Thank you, and best wishes. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
To all the participants, kindly leave the session.